I love that. That was so much fun. That is a new introduction to the Yahowah vlog. We had our full cast of Yahowah vlog characters there. The guy in the dapper blue hat, that was you, Kevin. No baseball hat.
Okay.
So some may not recognize you in the different hat, but if you were to put on the blue dapper hat, that's you. Roger, you were part of the cast of characters there. I don't know if you recognized yourself, but you were there. We had Will there because he has been such a repeat and marvelous contributor to the Yahowah blog. We had Dr. Jeff was part of the show, and of course we had Richard as well and Leah. So those were the cast of characters. The fellow at the end is Joe Page. He is the one who created the Yada website, and of course it directs your attention to the site, and since he created the site, it shows his image on it. And we may just add another picture at the end so that it concludes with the back with the focus on us. But I think that's fun. It's classy. It's well done. It's pertinent.
Looks sharp.
Yeah, it looks sharp. What do you think there, Roger? You think you were going to be an internet avatar star?
No, if you'd asked me that question even a couple of weeks ago, I'd said no.
Here you are. I think it's marvelous, and that we're have the cast, and that she has that kind of talent to do that sort of thing. And wait till you see the one that she's doing for our regular programs, like the basics and our normal Yahowah vlog series. It is even classier, and this one was designed to be a little more upbeat and kind of fun because we're covering the news. But that one is really elegant. So pleased to be here with you. And this is Roger B. and Kevin, and we're going to jump right into our first item of the news here. And that is somebody lamenting. There's going to be a lot of posts here of Trump, because he is really news today, because, well, the world has never been in a position where it is so adroitly controlled by Satan. And Donald Trump, according to the prophets, and they're never wrong, is Satan incarnate. He was foretold to be in this position at this time, a very long time ago. And we are the first to recognize him as such and to acknowledge it. And so we want to continue to reinforce that the prophets were right, that Donald Trump is bringing the world to its knees. So this first post is that somebody is saying that we ought to feel sorry, I guess, for Donald Trump. He has dementia, or he has some kind of mental illness, and it's really not his fault that he is such a scumbag. And what they've done is says, I hate it when people blame Trump's shortcomings on dementia, because he was always a piece of shit when he was young, too. And boy, is that true. However, now that he is Satan incarnate, he's a much bigger PO to U.S., de-emphasizing the T and the U and POTUS. I was talking to the fellows upstairs this morning about it is really a difficult thing for boys and young men to succeed in life if they have an exceptionally well-known and successful father. You can come up with all reasons for analysis. It's something that I studied 50 years ago, 60 years ago, back before there was the internet, and you actually had to go to libraries to read, to find such things. But it was a fascination to me, because the suicide rates of sons of successful fathers is very, very high. And the success rates of sons of successful fathers is very, very low. And I wanted to understand why these correlations existed. And Donald Trump is a perfect example. His father was a very rich, very successful by monetary standards scumlord in New York. And Donald Trump was the silver spoon boy of an immoral but highly recognizable and rich man. And he never developed character or backbone. Now, part of it is that those individuals start life not having to work for their position. You start off super rich, and you didn't earn any of it. You have no respect for the assets nor anyone that contributed to them, and so you are as a silver spoon individual. You're someone who does not have the grit and the backbone and the fortitude to properly appreciate what it takes to accumulate wealth and what are the responsibilities of wealth. And
Mhm.
he didn't. And it's tragic in that regard. Second is that there is an insecurity that also comes with people who, I'm tossing at my cutter down here, who's got back into to biting her nails. But there is an insecurity that is almost ubiquitous among the sons of exceptionally prominent men, whether they're good or bad, that causes them to say, to recognize there's nothing they can do in life to measure up. And that even if they become notorious, it'll always be because they started as the son of so-and-so, and they can never get out of that shadow. And that kind of insecurity does not breed a sense of what most people would think, that you would be shy and reserved and try to stay out of the limelight. That kind of insecurity is what breeds the narcissism and the egomaniacal nature of these kinds of individuals, because what they're doing is they're trying to mask what it is that is haunting them on the inside, knowing that he knows, for example, that he's a POS.
Mm-hmm.
He now knows he's demon possessed as well. And so these are the traits. I've studied them for at least 55 years. It's one of the very first things that I did as a that it was interesting, I think, as a young man, is come to understand this, and now we're witnessing it in this man.
Yeah, Yahowah recognizes it. I mean, that's the simple fact why he has a Yowbel, right? 50 years, everything's returned, so that each 2 or 3 generations has the opportunity to build for themselves.
Yes, yeah. The Yowbel is was re-evening the playing field. God's fully aware that we're not conceived equal. We're not. Some people are smarter than others. Some people think faster than others. Some people are tougher, stronger than others. Some people have more fortitude, more will to work, more insights. It was just radically different. Some people are far more evil than others. So we are not born equal, not by any stretch of the imagination. That is a lie that is perpetrated by those that are trying to create a false illusion of a society that they can therefore control. So we are not born with equality. And Yahowah actually likes the concept of free enterprise and free and total personal responsibility. So he's encouraging us to work and to be productive. And he sees no problem in a person. In fact, he actually enjoys it when a person works for the betterment of their family. And once that rewarded, so long as they're also responsible, and Yahowah's means to responsibility is that anybody who is on the fringes of society and is in need, they're not given money ever, but what they are given is access to food, access to clothing, access to housing materials. And then so long as they take the initiative to go get those things and make what those who have been productive have set aside for them, and they work to turn them into something usable for their family, then it's all good. And that's God's day-to-day remedy for the difference between people who are productive and those who, for whatever reason, have been on the fringes of society. But because of the fact that certain individuals are so much more productive than others, and we've just been talking about the story of Boaz. Boaz was not in the league of anyone of his era. You could have have added all of the elders of Bethlehem and Yehudah together, and they don't equal one Boaz. And he therefore owned most of the land in the area. Not a problem. Maybe he was even buying more of it. Not an issue from God's point of view. And God didn't say, "Oh, well, Boaz, you ought to stop buying land because you own too much of it, and people don't have enough of it." No, no problem at all with that issue.
Mhm.
But whenever he started, whenever he lived pursuant to the next Yowbel, the land is returned. If anybody borrowed money from him, all debts are forgiven, and he was the beneficiary of a very substantial number of what you would call today indentured servants. He didn't enslave anyone, but he had many people working for him that had surrendered their freedom to him for a life that he provided them. The work, housing, food, shelter, and encouragement. He was a really extraordinary leader of men and women. And that was very common in the ancient world, was indentured servitude. People who said, my life will be better if I can trust you to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And so those who were indentured servants to him, first of all, their children would be free. And second of all, they, during the Yowbel, would be free. So it is God's way of resolving the accumulation that would, over long generational times, of certain families, because every 50 years you start over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be honest with you, if you look even today, as much as people want to purport freedom, I love freedom, most people don't want freedom. They want to be taken care of. I mean, the simple fact that cities
particularly
exist,
today's generation, Gen Z, man, they're entitled to everything. They don't want freedom. They want free medical care, free education, free housing, a wage for non-work. I mean, they want to be cared for by the society and have no responsibilities to the society, and then demean the people that were productive that made those things available in the first place. So it is a very common thing today to have an entitlement-based culture that is not Yahweh's culture.
Mm-hmm. And it's generation after generation of it. It started pretty far back. Yeah. So it's the entitlement that they think they're entitled to.
Yeah, and one of the things too that has struck this the last two generations so badly is that such a high percentage of them have become Marxists, and they become Marxist because it is the economic scheme of those who covet, of those who feel entitled and don't want to work for it, and think that somehow those who have been productive owe something to them. That's Marxism. And what Marxism does is it just brings everybody down to the lowest common denominator, with the exception of the leaders who defraud and fleece everyone. But you've had a huge percentage of that. And I don't want to extrapolate beyond what is prudent, but I can tell you this, that when it comes to collectivism, communism, socialism, Marxism, or collectivism, where people congregate in large numbers and they make decisions over things and with huge control mechanisms over them. God is wholly opposed to that, completely and totally. Any largeism, whether it is religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or Marxism, communism, socialism, fascism, God is universally opposed to. He looks at collective man as pure evil all the time in every motivation. And so God is anti-socialistic. He is anti-Marxist. He is anti-communist. He is much into free enterprise in the sense of he values work and likes individual responsibility, and much prefers an individual or a family over a community, overwhelmingly so. So if you hear in my tone a abject condemnation of Marxism, it isn't just because I have been in the Soviet Union multiple times and for long periods of times, and was in Red China before the implementation of free enterprise zones, and was one of the first to establish free enterprise zones in China, and was all through the Iron Curtain countries while the Iron Curtain was up. So I've experienced what it does. I know it personally. I've been there. I felt it. I smelled it. I saw it. And so I'm opposed to what it does to people. I'm also opposed to the fact that intellectually it is a failed system. And I'm opposed to the fact that it is opposed by God. So that's the reason we speak of such things. So I can speak of economics and the economic plan that God would have us perform under. And we're going to be working for all eternity. If you're going to be part of God's family, you're going to be working. If you don't like work, if you feel entitled, you ain't going to be there. You're going to be automatic. You've written your ticket out. So this is something to think about, is that free enterprise and individual responsibility and accountability is something that God values, and collectivism is something that he disdains. That's the whole story of Noah and the flood. God regretted having created humankind, because when we became many, we became universally condemnable.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to address something real quick about work, if I can. In watching shows and listening to people online and seeing the Covenant family, everyone comes to us. I can do anything. What can I do? What can I do? I can do anything. You know, I'll do anything. I just want to be a part of it. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You need to show up with something hey, I can do X, Y, and Z. I'm already doing it, and this is how it can help you.
Correct.
You know, because
correct. And it's not our job to teach them. Today, you can learn whatever skill you need to make a contribution. You know, Roger, my guess is that you didn't have a whole lot of experience vlogging.
No, none. I remember.
None.
I remember the night when you made the proclamation that you wanted people to start getting involved.
Yes.
And when you said those words, Towrah words just popped in my head. It just came in there, along the blueprint on how to do it. It was amazing. And I had no idea. I'm not a computer guy. Kevin will tell you, I wait on him a lot to get it done. And I still struggle a little bit today, but the learning experience has been and I'm learning a lot in doing that. Yeah. So it's been
look, just the difference in the lighting. For example, today it's as Kevin mentioned, it's vastly superior than it has been on previous days, and it is. Yeah. And the purpose of the encouragement on everybody needs to get involved is that selfishly, for each individual, thinking selfishly as everybody that's in the covenant, I have become keenly aware that God is not going to empower anyone with multiple dimensions beyond the three that we have in these physical bodies until he knows that he can trust them. And you can't trust somebody that hasn't engaged and made a contribution and failed along the way and learned from it and stumbled and gotten back up. If you're not engaged, he has no way to be able to trust you. And so I wanted to make it such that people who consider themselves covenant have a way of demonstrating that they are. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first thought of it. And the second thought is that it is one thing for God to say to me, this is what I want you to do. And he's pretty clear. I want you to do this. Now I want you to do that. And, and I just go along. I am there for that purpose. You tell me what you want to do, and that's what I'm going to go to. And I've been deployed for a long time doing that. But there are the natural response of those who can't think, who can't refute anything that's in those 30,000 pages of translations and analysis that sit on the shelves at yahowah.com, is to simply lash out and to condemn all that we have learned and shared over the ages by calling it to the cult of Craig Wynn. And what we have come to recognize from everyone who has posted their history of how they became part of this covenant family on the chat pages of the website is there is no one that I came to know or that I reached out to or that I tried to get to follow me. And that, in fact, most people never even heard from me, never reached out to me. We'd never had any communication. And many of them I've never talked to even to this point, but most went 5-10 years before we had any communication. And that's pretty much universal in the whole process. I mean, both Rich and you, Kevin, you felt like you were being called to the office, to the principal's office, when after the time, and you've been reading the books, you knew exactly who you were. You were out defending what it means to be a covenant. You were pushing off those who were the naysayers. And then one day I heard about what you were doing. I said, we need to talk. And I said, I'd appreciate if you could make a contribution. But part of that, we'd never had any really direct communication. The only reason I got to know Richard is that X wouldn't work the way it was supposed to work. And I found out that he was the one that made it work for Mariah. And I said, all right, if you made it work for Mariah, you can probably make it work for me. So what are we going to do?
Mariah sent me an email and I'm like, oh, crap. What do I do?
What'd I do? Yeah, what did I do? Am I in trouble? So it was a great way to say, well, if it's a cult, then maybe you could explain to me why nobody is having their lives altered in any way. No one's been asked to make any kind of pledges. Why there's never been a donation in my direction, even though I've made many donations in the other direction.
You're the worst cult leader.
I am the worst. I must be the worst cult leader in the world's history. Yeah, that's probably true. And so it was a great way of saying, no, it's a people of all independent thinkers who came to material that they heard and said, I've never heard anything like this before. I want to go check it out. And then they spent years reading and verifying, and what they found is, it is really true. And in everything he says, he's backed up. And, oh, by the way, man, I can't even imagine how much we're learning beyond the fact that what he said is validated and is true. So I thought it would be also good for that purpose, and it's served that purpose.
Yeah, if you look at it, everyone in our own personal lives, and this definitely mirrors your personal life, look at the people that are the closest to us or were the closest to us that are not covenant. Family members, sons, daughters, spouses that
with all of us, with all of us. Yeah, with all of us universally. And that is exactly as one would expect it to be. That's the way that it has been for Yahowah when he chose these people to be his people. And he began this long ago he began with Adam, who became Dowd, and then Chinook. But it's been, I'm choosing to work through these people, and it's like 1 in a million of them that I can actually have a relationship with. The rest of them, I just can't. So it's the ultimate fractured family.
Yeah. I mean, until you show up and, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z. I'm showing up with the Torah in my hand. I know it. You know what I'm like Dowd did. I like that. Hey, I am useful. Let's this is what I can do for you, Yahowah. Let's get going. I can build a boat. Hey, I can herd cats through the desert. I mean, just let me know what you.
Yeah, and one of the things you find out is once you engage, the floodgates open, and Yahowah says, all right, that's pretty good, it's pretty impressive. How about this?
Right.
How about this?
Yeah, how about this?
Don't you be getting comfortable now. There aren't enough doers out there for him to stop adding to those who are active. I was once told by a good friend of mine when I was in college, who was the most active person I knew, and I always asked him, why does everybody give you the new job to do when you're already doing more jobs than anybody else? And he says, you want something done, you give it to the busiest person, because they're obviously good at getting things done, or they wouldn't be the busiest person. But there's a lot of that. And then there's the part of it of, if you're a really good parent, then you're never going to allow unused potential. If somebody that son or daughter is capable of a lot more than they're doing, you're not going to just let them languish by staying in kindergarten when they're capable of teaching a PhD class. You're going to help them get from one place to another, and you don't do that unless you continue to augment and layer on areas of responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
That
And
is
speaking as
something
one of those
that the
children,
Joker never got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
this
as
is-
one of
he-
those children, they don't like it. Being pushed constantly. Why am I the one that's always having to do extra? Why am I, I mean, but it's definitely worth the benefits. The benefits reap out
Yeah,
in the end,
I was just reading because of the Choter in Yahowah that I told you that I had spent 3 nights in a row where I couldn't sleep, and it was just constantly wrestling with Yahowah, and he's constantly telling me you need to figure out the example of the kidney stone and the 7 hours of suffering under the kidney stone and what it represents. You're not stupid. You can figure this out. How does it pertain to Dowd, to Pesach, and to Towrah? Figure it out. And for 3 nights in a row, I said, I understand that it pertains to these things. Where am I supposed to look to figure this out? Right. And I keep on getting the answer. I'm not giving you the damn answer. You figure it out. It's there for you to figure out. You're not going to sleep until you figure it out. So you might as well go and figure it out. And there it was, sixth statement in the book of Yahowah in the 11th chapter. And he's gone through all the stuff on the Choter, and then he lays it on. And you talk about being asked a big ask. Well, the big ask was that the job of the Choter began a long, long time ago, 2,000 years ago. And as Dowd's dad, because Dowd was not conceived to ever be on his own. It's not just that Dowd doesn't perform well on his own. I mean, look at Dowd's his first 60 years of his life as the boy who became king. He did not perform well on his own because he had a really crappy father and mother. And it wasn't until Ethan Haas Rocky and the Amma entered his life at 60 that he got his act together. Dowd was not conceived to ever be on his own. He has to have a mother and father. That's the way Yahowah conceived him, because Yahowah wants to be his father. But you've got to get the young man to that point. And you don't get the young man to that point without influencing him with a mother and father throughout many lives, throughout a long swath of time. And one of those times is when he was born in the closing years of the 3rd millennia, so he could serve as the Passover lamb. And in 33 CE, the first year of the 4th millennia. And I have always known that he did not do that alone. He did not go into Sheol alone. He did not suffer crucifixion alone, because it is not Yahowah's nature to allow his son to do those things alone. And I've always known that that the soul that Yahowah has redeployed as Boaz and Noach, and now as the Nachri and Choter, that it is not in the nature of that soul to abandon his beloved son and God's firstborn son, Dowd. It's just incapable of it. It's completely alien to his nature. So I've always known that in one way or another, I was there for Pesach and for Matsah, because there is no other possibility with Yahowah or the character that he has deployed so many times. But I've never seen the proof of it. And the whole issue that God's trying to emphasize, he says, there can't be something of that magnitude that there isn't some evidence of. And it says, you know that there is no place in the 22nd Mizmor where I say that the death by crucifixion is Pesach, do I? I don't ever say that trip into Sheol is Matsah, do I? I don't say that it's Pesach and Matzah in the 53rd chapter of Yahowah, do I? I don't say it in the 88th Mizmor either. As a matter of fact, when you came to understand the first and second person volition through the Mizmor, that Dowd and I, we're in like mind regarding Dowd serving as the Savior. Never once said, and he's going to do it by fulfilling Pesach and Matzah, did it? And you came to that conclusion because of the experience on Mount Choreb. And you witnessed what is undeniably presenting Dowd as the firstborn, serving as the Passover lamb for Passover, instead of Abraham taking the life of his only son, the son he loved, Yishak. And it hit me like bolt of lightning. There it is. And I always wondered, how did Dowd come to that conclusion? Because I know I did. How did he come to it? And then now we study Noach and his life, and you realize, Noach is me, and Shem is Dowd. And I took him there. I had him witness what happened. I had him witness what I had seen, so that he would know it. Okay, so now you come forward to 33 CE, and the entire human experience, the covenant, is all based upon whether or not Dowd will fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Kodim. And we know from the past that Dowd does not do well on his own. He wasn't made to do well on his own. By design, he will never do well on his own. That's not how he was conceived. That's not his purpose, is to do well on his own. He is to be the son that God can trust, that God can explore the universe with. He is never, ever supposed to be on his own, unless it's to learn a lesson. And so there you are, and you say, all right. So in other words, the proof that I'm going to find is going to be as undeniable, but yet as indirect as the realization that Dowd fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Kodim. Yep, it is. And so that's where I found it. It's sixth statement of Yahowah. And you talk about this idea of being given more than you thought you could possibly ever handle, based on the verbs there, based upon the way that it is established there. I didn't just accompany Dowd through crucifixion of Pesach or go into Sheol with him. I'm the one that enticed the Romans to kill him. I went to the Romans to make certain that on Pesach he'd be crucified, and that I'd be crucified right alongside of him. It had to be done that way. Now talk about rough. Can you imagine being Dowd and they said, you did what?
Right.
What?
I've had those,
explain that again to me. But it had to set it up so that it would happen that way, and then endure it myself with him. And I have said in the past that I can't imagine that God allowed his firstborn to feel that kind of pain over those many hours. Or that when I am the sacrificial victim on Towrah as the Adamah Parah, that the pain will be masked. No, it won't be. And that's the point. It wasn't, and it won't be. It has to be endured. It has to be seen by everyone and appreciated by everyone for the level of sacrifice that's required to fix us.
Yeah. I've had those conversations with people before about how the Romans, killed Dowd. And I'm like, he can't commit suicide, right? It has to happen that way. So that's the whole point of it. I mean, and basically
I taunted them into it.
Yeah. Yeah. You show up and this is the real king of Israel, everybody. This is,
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah. And of course they're going, yeah.
Yeah, yes. I always wondered about that myself. It's all too neat and tidy, the way they have it written down in the Christian New Testament and stuff about how it worked. And it just didn't make sense to me. And the way it's presented here makes a whole lot more sense. What would Rome care about somebody in Judea like that?
Wouldn't. And it goes beyond that, Roger. The reason that Paul was able to sell the lie of Jesus, and this Jesus fellow being crucified on Pesach, and people being crucified next to him on Pesach, and all the things that are said, like him citing the 22nd Mizmor, and him having a mother and that read for me actually having a birth mother and father, is because it actually happened. It just wasn't Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so he could backfill on what actually happened to Dowd as the Messiah and the Son of God. His lie, such that it resonated, and such that, for example, there were no disciples, but there absolutely was a Jacob and a Shimon Kefish, although he wasn't known as Kefish, but Shimon. And there was a Yahukanan. They just weren't disciples. They were our sons. They were his brothers. And the reason that the Twistians have the 3 crosses, and it wasn't a lowercase t. The implement was more like a capital T. But the reason that they have the 3 is that indeed Dowd was not crucified alone. I was there, and so was his mother. So everything is a counterfeit of one of the most profoundly important truths ever. That's why God hates Christianity so much, why he hates Judaism so much, is that these were examples for us to cherish, to learn from, to capitalize upon, and they were trashed by the religious. It's why Yahowah refers to Paul as the plague of death for what he did. But that is what actually happened, and that's how it happened. Is that my job was to do something that most people would view as ungodly. The verb that Yahowah uses for na'ar. Na'ar is the word that permeates the story of Ruth. It permeates the story of Noach after the flood, as he is visiting with Yahowah, and he and Shem, who is Dowd, with Yahowah are visiting Abraham and Sarah when they're announcing the birth of Jacob. Then they go into Sodom and to rescue Lot. And it's a constant mention of Na'ar. And then you see the Na'ar is how Noach, in the last year of that life with Shem, shows Shem what is his future through what happens on Mount Moriah in that year on Pesach in year 2000 Yah, the 40th Yowbel year. That Na'ar, the verbal root of Na'ar, doesn't mean young. Doesn't mean young men. It's to not only to separate, but to do so in a exceedingly aggressive way. It's to, you do not belong here. Back up. You do not belong here. Get away. And that is the personality set. We were talking again this morning. There has to be Lowy in God's story. They are the uniters. Kevin, you play a pretty good uniter. People are brought into community by you. I am not. I'm a separator. That is my job. I'm here to push the religious away. I'm here to push the political away, and I'm here to push all the lies away from God's beloved Son, Dowd. And that's the very nature of that word. It's an aggressive separator. And so the more you come to understand the words, it's the more powerful it becomes. But the text actually reads that together in the same place, on the same mind at the same time. It was the reoccurring bull and the lion who were both bludgeoned to death by an oppressive regime that they stood to oppose. And then it goes from there to saying that it is the Nayar, who is the Katan, that drove all of this to that result.
Let's just stamp it on top of each other right there.
You know, this when Yahowah decided he would inspire Yashaya, they went into where this is going to be the post-grad class on Chotering. And there it is, and it's boom, boom, boom. And it is so powerful. And I came across that yesterday. I mentioned it in the Luminary blog yesterday. And I'm still there today. I'm still looking at the words. I'm still processing this. I'm saying, oh my God, that was the biggest ask of all time. You had me taunt the Romans, not only to crucify me and my wife, but our beloved son that we were there to protect. That is a really, really big ask.
Yeah.
But that's what it says. And guess what? I slept like a baby last night. It was over. Now you figured it out. Good for you. Away, kid.
Go ask Ruth. There
Good
you
job.
go. Go ask Ruth. It's all done. Yeah.
Yeah. My only the loose end that I have right now is in Catan. And this what is its real definition? Because to some degree, younger works because Chinook came after Adam. It's just okay. So what? And Catan means younger. The moon is less vital than the sun because it reflects the sun's light. Okay, but boy, if you look at the story that God's telling,
it's not about vitality. It's about support, right?
My point. It's that Dowd is the central player. He's the son in God's story. He's the chosen one, but he is dysfunctional on his own, and he does a lot of really bad stuff.
To be alone,
and he needs a resolute father. He doesn't need a perfect father. That would be terrible for him. Then he'd be like this piece of shit here that we're looking at. He didn't have obviously a perfect father, but he'd be intimidated. He can't be intimidated by his father. His father has to be flawed. He has to have rough edges. He has to have earned his position the hard way. And he has to be very vulnerable to his son. Has to be. Otherwise, it won't work. It would have the exact opposite approach that God is trying to establish. But because of the role of the Catan all the way through, he's by far the tougher of the two. He knows more. He's more consistent, more resolute, more correct. He reflects who God is more than the Gadol. He does. He doesn't reflect as much as what God wants, but who he is. And it's like God saying, I created Adam as my firstborn to be my son. And he can't be my son unless he has a father and mother. And in the seventh dimension, I'm not in a position to be his father and mother because then I'm going to be too intimidating. Rather than growing and manning up into that role, he's going to fade under such a comparison. So he had to have a real, flawed, vulnerable father and mother.
Plan D.
Yeah, that's the story. And it is all the way through. Plan dad. And that's the story all the way through. Protective, consistently loving, supportive, very real. father and mother. Now, there's another aspect of the story. I think I've hinted at this before, but Dowd was not in a position to serve as the Pesach as he was. Just as Aaron wasn't in the position to enter the set-apart aspect of the tabernacle of the witness and anoint the mercy seat to reconcile the relationship with Israel through the goat's blood, not until the bull's blood was put on the Kaporeth. Same thing is true with Dowd. The bull's blood has to be put on the Kaporeth before Dowd can sprinkle the goat's blood and reconcile the relationship with Israel. And for those who don't like animal sacrifice, don't worry about it. They're humans. Now, for those that say they don't like human sacrifice, don't worry about it. They're bodies of souls, and the soul continues. And if you don't understand the story, then you don't understand sacrifice and how important that sacrifice is to be real. Again, God's not looking for perfect parents. He's looking for real parents. And so the Kaporeth, the Aaron Bereth, was actually beneath the encarpment of Golgotha. It wasn't Dowd's blood, the Messiah's blood, that dripped on it. It was minus the bull, which prepared him to be acceptable. And so that leaves you again with, okay, so Yahowah says that the two Mayoreth, the two luminaries, they're both Gadol. And he has one that is Gadol and the other one that is Katan. Why Katan? So I began to think this morning, how is Katan written? The Koth is the end of a day and the beginning of a day. Pretty good start, right? That fits. So somebody that's going out of this 6,000 year epic that we have been on to restore to Yahowah, the son that he has always wanted, so that he can be proud of his son, so that he can give his son his kingdom, and so that he can go off and explore the universe with his son. The end of that era and the beginning of a new one as we return to the garden and then enter forevermore. Koth is a pretty good way to start, isn't it? I have said for some time now that I was wrong in accepting the popular definition of the Teth in Hebrew. The popular definition of it is that it's a signature. It isn't. A signature is this, and it's always been this.
X marks the spot. Make your X.
It ain't that. You know what it is? It's a tree. It's a tree. So the previous day and the new day are demarcated by the tree of knowledge. So new day, old day ends, new day begins, demarcated by the first thing that the Katan is defined as is the tree of knowledge. That's why in that Choter story that I've just told you, that I explained all of that, what we're about, it has in it the whole definition of the Etzah Dayath, the full story of the tree of knowledge. It's a tree. And that the purpose of the tree is to provide knowledge. And what's the last letter of Katan?
Noon. A little squiggly guy, yeah.
Sperm means
Children.
son. And it's also symbolic of seed. You sow the seeds, cultivate the seeds, what do you end up with? A harvest.
More trees. A harvest, yeah.
A harvest. Yeah, so it's a end of a era, beginning of a new day. Delivered by the tree that provides the seeds for a productive harvest. Pretty good definition then, isn't it? So I thought I'd share that. That's been it's been really gut wrenching. These last few days since Sunday, trying to understand the lesson. I'm not saying that God gave me a kidney stone to pass, but I am saying that He was really insistent that I learn the lesson, and the lessons were powerful. And it is this kind of thing, and this is a lesson for everybody. When life brings you this very painful, and I'm not bragging about having survived a kidney stone. There's 10% of people have one at one time or another in their lives, and it's demarcated as the single most painful things that people can endure. And it wasn't even in the top. It was in the top 3 with me, but it was a distant third to other things that I've experienced in my life. But it is when we work our way through such a thing, and when our thoughts are appropriate, even during the thing. And I was ready to go. I said, maybe this is an appendix. We don't have a hospital here on the island, and so if you have an appendicitis, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up the 3 most likely causes of the pain I was suffering, and all 3 said, you don't get immediate hospital care, you're going to die. And we have no functional hospital on the island, so I was going to die, and I was really, really excited about that. I thought, this is great.
Not all of us were.
Well, not all of us were. I went to Leah and I said, I think you probably ought to try to at least take me to the hospital. So I'm making an effort here to hang on. And she says, no, not me. I'll go with you, but call Rich. And so I called Rich, and Rich actually resolved the problem by playing ambulance driver and forgetting there's potholes in this island, and that took care of that kidney stone. I'll tell you, it became a 7-hour ordeal versus longer. But no, Leah was not keen on the checking out early. She says, I'm not going to be a single mother. Anyway, the way she checked out the last time, maybe she would rethink that, since it wasn't all that pleasant. But
right.
It's quite a story, the way it all holds together and the way that God has told it, and here we are, being the only people in the world that understand why this man is so demonic. He is literally Satan incarnate. What are your thoughts about that, Roger? That's a pretty amazing story, isn't it?
I'm on. Yes, that's an amazing, just an amazing story. I never even considered any of that. It's kind of hit me, with the brick. It's just amazing, and it makes perfect sense now. It's like you look at something for a long time, but you really don't see what it is. And when you finally see what it is, you're like, whoa.
And that was my deal in this whole thing, is that I knew it had to be true, because I know Yahweh's nature, and I know the nature of the individual He is continuing to deploy. And it is not our nature to have stepped aside and say, okay, we'll see you in a couple of days, have a nice time. It just is not in our nature, nor was in Rome's nature to do what Rome did. And nor was Paul creative enough that he created the myth of Jesus without a precedence for most of what happened. And so now we have an answer for all of those things, and it was always there. And it just, sometimes you don't want to go there because of what you might find and what it means, and what it portends for the future, and the like. And so sometimes you have to be nudged in that direction.
Yeah, I really want to go back to the garden. I mean, it's so laid out there that to see it now, it's just like, how did we miss it before, right? You've stated in your books, plan A was Yahowah and Adam, right? Plan B was Yahowah and Behemoth, right? The animals, we're naming the animals. It's not good for man to be alone, right? Plan C was Adam and Chowah, right? And we know that didn't turn out so well, right? Because we have the blind leading the blind here. He was supposed to get it and help her, and he didn't, and she ended up influencing him. So he needed something that he was relatable to him, that could set the right precedence for him, to set the right example for him. Plan D, need dad. Yeah.
He needs dad. Yeah, he needed dad. Because he was created to be a son.
Mm-hmm.
He was created to be a son with a loving father, and with a really, really imposing father. I mean,
Oh, sure.
he was put in the position that is the ultimate struggle for a young man. The thing that who would have thought that would be the first thing that I really studied in my life, where I was just absolutely curious as to why this was. I found the correlation, both correlations, good and bad, suicide and success, lack of one and the propensity for the other. And it was the first thing I studied. And I had a wealthy father who was exceedingly abusive. And I came out of that initially shy and desirous of any way I could break through it, because I hated being shy. And I was very uncomfortable around a father that I knew was a racist, anti-Semite, abusive. And how do you come out of that? How do you survive that? And that was my motivation for studying it. I want to know how to survive it. And here now the payoff, all those years later. And of course, I did it, 6,000 years ago, before the internet.
Right. Thank goodness for the library cards, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
55 years ago, anyway. Yeah, thank God for library cards.
Well, it was preserved. We were meant to see it at the right time, and this is
Correct.
the right time.
Correct. Yeah, we were meant to see it at the right time. When we return, God wants the people listening to us to know who we are. We weren't just plucked out of obscurity and put there on the mountain. Okay, now talk a good game. No, we have a lot of skin in the game, a lot. And we care a lot about the conditions when Dowd returns. All right, my friend, let's push past this young and old scum. All right. Because if you confess with your mouth, Jesus Lord, and your heart you have faith that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10:9. Newsflash, folks. Paul lied. Paul lied about everything. And I proved it. You can go to yahowah.com. I put up. You go to yahowah.com. You strum down the click on books, go down the page. Second to last series is Twistianity. Read them. 5 volumes. They're all free. They'll even talk to you. You don't even have to read. They will actually talk to you. In fact, you don't even have to turn the page. They will turn the page. And you don't even have to keep your finger on what line are we reading now. It will highlight the line that the AI is reading, and it even mimics my voice. And it has voices of famous Christians to read the Christian nonsense too. And so the books will talk to you. They will turn the page for you. They will highlight where it is. It's all there for you. And not only did I prove that Paul lied, I killed Jesus.
Well,
I killed your God if you're a Christian. I absolutely slaughtered him. And that's the truth.
Well, the way I read it, it says, Isu is Baal. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of other issues, but I think the issues we brought up are the most important. But the fact is, of course, there was no Jesus until the 17th century. Yahowah is not a Lord in the sense of this statement. He is a Baal in the sense of he wants to be the husband of the covenant family. But he's had to write a letter of divorce, so now it's his son that has that distinction. And God can never die. So if your God died, he ain't a God. And bodily resurrection isn't a good thing. It's a really bad thing. It's a really, really stupid thing. It's what the the Egyptians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians and Genghis Khan and his hordes. That's what they all did. That's why they buried the servants with them and horses and boats and food and mummified their bodies and all that sort of thing, built these elaborate tombs because they were convinced that they were going to have bodily resurrection, and it has never happened ever. It is purely pagan, and it is entirely counterproductive. The whole idea of the covenant is being freed of these physical bodies, because while you have them, you're stuck on this planet and you are mortal, and there's nothing you can do about it. So every aspect of this is wrong. And by the way, to dedicate a book that you claim is godly to the beast of Rome should have told anybody with even a nitwit of a brain that the person speaking to them is on the wrong side. He's speaking for the beast. Even a flicker of intelligence ought to have told you that you're on the wrong team if you're reading a book devoted to the Romans. Those were the bastards that subjugated Yahowah not once, not twice, but 3 times. They destroyed the temple and then destroyed the entire city and most of the country, and then renamed it with an ethnic slur after creating the diaspora and crucifying hundreds of thousands of Jews. And that is that same imperial Rome that became the godforsaken beast of the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, you have to be absolutely stupid. Hey, they're going, God. Tell me, God. Look up. God. I know you died. I'm so sorry you died, God. I mean, come on.
Have a little faith.
Good grief, people. Jesus never existed. God cannot die. Bodily resurrection is utterly ridiculous. It's impossible and counterproductive. And saved to what? Saved for what? Saved why? Why would God want to spend any time with somebody stupid enough to believe a book dedicated to the godforsaken Romans? Saved why? Saved for what? Saved to where? What's the damn purpose? Think it through. God has no interest in saving you. He's far more interested in this job, pushing you away. You got your hands in the wrong direction. Go this way. You have just pushed God away. You pointed your finger in his eye. You peed in his face.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, Paul admitted he was demon possessed. That's not a very good idea either, is it?
Not a good start. Yeah.
It's almost like when they interject the faith and belief, it just causes logic to fly right out the window. They look at it. They don't even look at it with a discerning eye. They just, oh yeah, I believe, and that's good enough. That's the lie that's been built on.
Yeah, you can't think about any of this. Because there's nothing you can confess that's going to cause you to endear yourself to God. Nothing. Your confession means nothing. God's not interested in your confession. There's no place in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms that God ever asks you to make a confession. Your mouth is going to get you in a lot of trouble, but it's never going to help you. Jesus didn't exist until the 17th century. And in the 21st century, I killed him. Go read the books on Christianity. God is completely uninterested in faith. You either know him or you don't know him. Your God doesn't even have a name. God can never die. And salvation for someone that doesn't know who God is, doesn't even know his name, doesn't know that there was no Jesus, that Jesus is nothing but a crude counterfeit and a disgusting lie, would never be saved. And a man who wrote an ode to the Romans that were the ultimate savages, the beast of the ancient world that became the Roman Catholic Church that tread upon the whole world, that lied about God to everyone. I mean, if you're someone who believes this shit, you got shit for brains.
Yeah. The best you can hope for is nothing. The best can hope for is nothing.
The person who promoted this is going to Sheol.
Mm-hmm.
The person who is fooled by it is going to have their soul dissipated into nothingness. Okay.
Tragic.
Tragic. Okay. So this really happened. President Trump just bragged about being the number one on the list for killing. I want you to play it. He actually did.
I'm number one on, I like being number one on TikTok better, but I'm number one on the list for killing. I'm number one on.
What?
Don't expect me to add anything to that. You're dealing with Satan. I'm number one on the list for TikTok. I'd like to be number one on the list for TikTok, but I'm not. I'm number one on the list.
I expect it to be a little bit longer video. I kept waiting for more words to come out, but yeah.
No.
That's they got a bounty out on him. From what I understand.
I don't think he means that.
I don't think he means that. He's not talking about for being killed. It's possible. Is he thinking one thing and saying another? It's always possible because his mind is a POS. But what he says is, "I'm number one for killing. I'm not number one for being killed."
Oh! That puts a whole new bit on. Yeah, he is number one for killing,
and he's really going to be He is going to be the most lethal person who ever lived by the time the 7 years is over. Yeah. By the way, he gets to kill me. I'm his last kill.
The bloodlust of the beast is insatiable.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And it's because he hates humankind. Satan, who has possessed him, hates all humanity. And before you think of Satan as the little devil with the tail, Satan is the Lord God of religion. He is Jesus. He is Hashem. He is Allah. And he hates humanity. No respect at all for humanity.
It's amazing to me that he can stand up in a forum, a national forum, being on camera and say that, and people just not throwing their hands up and say, "What is this guy? Who is this guy? This guy's nuts." Yeah. And yet, I don't hear a voice.
That's because the journalists are all went to Ivy League schools and got good grades in the humanities. And they got nothing. None of them ever done anything worthwhile in their lives. They've got nothing. They're empty suits or empty dresses. There's no substance to any of them. So he's surrounded by people who are slower on the uptake than he is.
What's saying something?
It is saying something, but that's the reality of it.
It's already a bloodbath. How much worse is it going to get? Yeah.
And they actually show respect for him, and Mr. President, and Sir, and you hear some of the questions, and I'm going to spit in his face. He's Satan. I find him disgusting, and I find little weasels that stand behind him like that equally disgusting. Marco,
I saw a little bit of the Zelensky press conference. It was him and Zelensky sitting down yesterday, and that was just an absolute mess. I mean, he didn't know if he was sitting next to Zelensky or Putin. He called him, literally looked at it and called him Putin several times, and then was joking with him about his the invitation to go to Moscow for peace talks or whatever, and I'm just like, you can't be serious. I mean, it's
No, I think what you see, and I've seen it a lot, is those people that are have sold their soul for the power that is associated with the President of the United States, and dealing with a man who is literally Satan. Their eyes sink in, their personalities goes. Satan feeds on souls. He's taking these souls. He's fed on them. There's nothing left of them. Hegseth is an example. J.D. Vance, he's devoured them. He's sucked them in. It's what's happened. You can put a nice tie on them, but There's nothing there anymore.
Yeah.
Next term?
Nothing.
Yeah, POS. I like this idea. Jesus died for our sins. Okay, but he didn't stay dead. Is that right? Do I have that right? What exactly did he sacrifice? Well, Jesus gave up his weekend for your sins.
That's good. That is good.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And a weekend he spent sleeping, by the way. You know,
The weekend he was napping. Yeah, he was napping during the weekend because on the Shabbat, which is actually Matsah, the Jesus character takes a nap. And, oh my! And it was the first day of the week that he came up from his nap. And of course, even in the Christian New Testament, nobody recognized him.
Mhm.
There's 3 accounts of him showing up, none of which are true, by the way. But the one common denominator in all 3 accounts is no one recognized him. His mother didn't recognize him. The guys on the road to Emmaus didn't recognize him. Hell, even the pretend disciples didn't recognize him. So guess what? It's just a lie. And Satan told the lie in such a way that he could taunt God by saying, these people are so stupid that are going to believe this lie. I'm going to make it obvious that it's a lie, and they're still going to believe it.
Well, you know, from what I understand, from what I've read, the Romans killed him for sedition, that he claimed to be the king of the Jews, not because anything had to do with sin. You know, it was just a judicial procedure.
Of course, that is the story, and the made up Gospels is that he was killed for sedition. He came to be the king of the Jews. And the fact is, the reason they got that line is that's how I taunted Rome to take his life on, not his, but Dowd's life. As I said, you're in the city of Dowd. This is my son's city. He is the king of Israel. He is the very son of God. And that was all it took. And that's why you have all of that trial stuff that all it does is pertain to something that is completely contrary to Christianity. You pointed it out. In the fables of the New Testament, he dies because of sedition. And of course, Jesus wasn't king of Dipshitia, but Dowd was. It's his city. It's the city of Dowd. And so that is what actually occurred. So there's always a basis. Paul was not very bright. He was only good at misrepresenting the things of God. And so the rest of it is doesn't fit the story. But it does mirror what actually happened. Oh, yes. So Trump, he said, Iran just called. Iran just called. I was bombing them, and they're in the middle of a funeral, but Iran just called. And they're really begging to make a deal. They want to make a deal really badly. Yeah. If they want to make a deal, then why did they attack the commercial vectors? Fast your feet belts. We got to land. Play the clip. It's confabulation here on something where it's so murderous and so destructive to the world, to American sovereignty, to the status of the U.S. economy, to relationships with every nation on earth, and the destruction of a country, all based upon total and complete confabulation. And this man was elected by Christians.
We hit back much harder.
Are we returning to a full-scale military conflict, sir?
I don't know. I don't know. We'd win it very quickly. It's another way of doing it. We have many ways we can win, but we've already won militarily. They have very little. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because sort of crazy.
I don't know if they're worthy to make a deal. They just call. They want to make a deal really badly. I had to bomb them because they have nothing left, and we're going to win this war very quickly, which I've said like 50 times already and never materialized. And you're losing the war, which is why you signed a document of surrender. But nevertheless, we're going to win this war very quickly, and this is just another way to go about it. And so when we dishonored the surrender document that I had signed, the first thing they said is that they want to start negotiating again. When you disavowed the agreement that you signed the same day that you signed it, the last thing they want is to have another agreement with you. They did not call you. You are nothing but a pile of lies. And it's just a shame there isn't a single journalist in that group that could say, no, they did not call you. There is no they. You aren't going to win this war quickly. You've lost the war and you continue to lose it. And the definition of insanity, sir, is continuing the same thing and expecting a different result. And it's not them who can't be trusted. It's you.
Well, I saw some posts this morning about how Trump was claiming the Iranians were nothing but scum, unworthy, insulting us every way he can. Now he's coming out saying he wants to make a deal or they want to make a deal. This is 50% playing to the cameras and 50% confabulation.
Yes. If you were to want to cut a deal, say we have something that I have something you want, and you want to cut a deal to acquire it, I can assure you that the worst approach that you could have to that deal is to degrade my integrity and my character before we start talking. And I'll just say, I think you're scum. You are incapable of honoring any deal. I look down my nose at you. I would never trust you for anything. Oh, by the way, can we make a deal?
How French can you get?
How French can you get? How could you be in that airplane and not just pin his ears back and say you're so full of shit there, sir? Everything you've said is a contradiction of everything you've said. So no, we're not buying this, sir. My laptop decided that it would take a nap here, so I'll look into the teleprompter. We don't know why that is the case, but I'll bring it out. But what do we have? There it just moved the laptop around. There we are. We're back again. Okay, what do we have next? So, man of war positioned himself as a man of peace. This was the same Air Force. We'll have to call this Air Force 1.5, maybe, because he came in on his Qatari bird, but he left his Qatari bird, and he flew out on a Robin Blue Air Force One, as opposed to the Trump Qatari one. And so here he is. This time he is bragging that nobody in the history of humanity has ever deserved the Nobel Peace Prize more than him. This is the man that has been involved in constant war and continues to start wars and couldn't solve a war if it was his life ambition. War after war after war, and here he is.
Actually, they probably will do the wrong thing. It's very sad with Norway, but I would say I should have won that award more than anybody that ever received the Nobel Peace Prize. Because nobody settled wars. I settled 8 of them because I'm a certain type of personality. I was able to settle. Think of it, India and Pakistan. You know, because you covered it, that war was raging. They were a week into it, 11 planes were shot down, and that war was going to go nuclear. The Prime Minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved from 30 to 50 million lives. Well, guess what? It could have been a lot more than that.
Oh, good grief.
Well,
you know what India's response, and Modi wouldn't, Modi is the kind of guy that because he's got a million gods, he's got a million friends. Modi is the least discriminating of all heads of state. So long as it's perceived as good for the moment for India, you can be his pal. And so the guy that doesn't say shit about anybody, immediately after Trump claimed to have solved the Pakistani Indian conflict, he said he did no such thing. We never talked to him about anything. We made no agreement of any kind with him. He had absolutely nothing to do with anything in this conflict. And oh, by the way, the conflict is ongoing. So the reality is he had nothing to do with the solution there. Now, the Pakistanis, they are really desperate. They will blow smoke in anybody's tuchus because they need money. You know, they promised that they would provide weaponry and men to protect Saudi Arabia from Iran. And then they tell the Iranians that we're your best buddy. We'll be your negotiating buddies, playing both sides against the middle. And then they go and kiss the Donald's butt, saying, you know, for some money and a little more weaponry, we'll be your best friend too. This is Satan. In fact, he's looking a little reddish there, isn't he?
It's very reddish. Got the hair going on too.
Yeah, the goatish comb over hair. Yeah, he's got it. That's one of the signs. Being old in days, long in days, very old fart. That's part of one of the signs. Egomaniacal, one of the signs. Claiming that he is providing peace while being a warmonger, one of the signs. Egomaniacal, one of the signs. Psychotic, one of the signs. Sexual pervert, one of the signs. Yeah, he's got them all.
Well, one thing about this statement, you know, Nobel, if I'm correct, invented dynamite.
Correct.
Explosives in general. So if the orders for slinging around the most dynamite around the world, he's right up there.
He is. Yeah. The whole thing of the Nobel Peace Prize is such a farce because he made his fortune on war. And while he didn't invent explosives, he came up with a way of creating dynamite so that it would only explode on command. So he improved the nature of wartime explosives. So Nobel, he could have been number one for killing for his age too.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Congratulations. That's your sign. This I watched, and so their first reaction is no. He can't be that sick. He really can't. He can't make a joke out of killing little girls and obliterating an entire family of leaders in a country and destroying their infrastructure and just being a goddamn madman. No, not even below Trump. So the first thing I did when I saw this, and we'll play it, is I fact checked it. And you'll read at the top there when it came back. Yes. Donald Trump posted this video on Truth Social on June 24th, 2025. Featuring a parody of the Beach Boys' 1965 song, Barbara Ann, with the lyrics changed to Bomb Iran. The video displayed footage of B-2 stealth bombers dropping explosives on Iranian nuclear sites, set to the 1980 parody version of Vince Vance and the Vandals. Valiants, I should say. So go ahead and play it. This is your president.
Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. My country's got a feeling, really, it's the ceiling. Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Went to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah, gonna put you in a box. Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb. Sam's getting pretty hot. Time to turn Iran into a parking lot. Bomb Iran, bomb, 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 Iran.
There are times when being right is still painful. 2 years ago, well, actually 20 years ago, I came to know that at this time, 7 years before, Yah was returned with Dowd. that we would enter the time of troubles, and it would be the leader of the United States that would be Satan incarnate who betrays Israel, because the prophets were clear in that regard. I didn't know who that president was going to be until 2 years ago, and then I announced that this is Satan incarnate, that Donald Trump is Satan. And knowing that, while it's an important position to have known, it still doesn't prepare you for how just totally vile this is. And, I was an American, and America at one time stood for some things that were meaningful and valuable and positive, and it's all been trashed.
This was his Truth Social account, yes? He posted this originally on his Truth. Yeah. And if you notice, none of the words that are in the subscripts mention killing, bomb, any of those words. So the AI allows him to play it. Even on his Truth Social account. It was
on Truth Social. Truth Social, he can say whatever he wants because they don't have anybody doing this, scrutinizing it. And of course, the AIs are actually not capable of going beyond what you put in your words. They will look at what you have in your words, and that's all they can do. And the AIs are really dysfunctional. The Yahowah Facebook account was taken down again today, and I sent Rich a by email their explanation, and they say they don't allow somebody who is not in one place to claim that they're in one place to excoriate the politics of that place. And you're going, say what? Yeah, that's why
you can't talk about American politics because you live in the Virgin Islands.
I was unauthentic. Yes, unauthentic. What they're actually claiming is that somebody might live in Bangladesh, and they're pretending to be an American, and they're posting things that they do or don't like about America when they aren't there, or that they're just a bot and they're pretending to be a person when they aren't that person. Last time I checked, I wasn't a bot, and I actually do live in an American territory, and you don't have to be an American to criticize America either. I happen to hold an American passport, so I'm legit to not violate any of Facebook's rules. But you just, after a while, you just become to the point where you recognize the AIs that run social media are really stupid. That AI is the dumbest thing that man ever created. It is really, really stupid. It is completely inept.
And that was my point here, that even on his own channel where there's he should be able to post anything he wants. They still know it's so abhorrent they don't use the word bomb in their subtitle because every other AI is going to kick it out. It's bum, bum, bum. They're clearly saying bomb Iran. That's the whole point of it. And yet they're still hiding behind this so it'll get play. They know it's wrong. They know it's bad.
Correct.
I'm
actually opening my language up more to say it as it is. You hear me like I'll say that Trump's a piece of shit. I don't have a problem. God uses the term shit all the time, and he would view Trump as a piece of shit. So I don't have any issue using words as they were intended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he is saying in this Brittany, he nailed it. That if them damn Dems win in November, they'll wage maximum warfare on Republicans and they'll impeach President Trump in day one. Oh my God. Okay.
Yep.
I can tell you that, yes, that if the House and Senate go Democratic, then Trump will be impeached and he will be convicted. And the reasons will be for more than any data center could possibly hold. And so if you don't want him impeached and convicted, then you might have want to have encouraged him not to commit those crimes. And if you don't want to be dragged out and tarred and feathered along with him, you ought not have supported him as he was committing those crimes. But, crime and consequence. They've gone together for a long time. As for day one, and we're going to use red, and we're going to use yellow, and we're going to use big capitals and capital letters where they don't fit. Yeah, why is the they capitalized if it's a mid-sentence? Why is the W capitalized? Why is maximum warfare in red and in quotes? I mean,
It's art.
why is day one? I mean, what? Come on, Brittany, you are just really pathetic. Come on. Yes, he will be impeached if the Democrats take Congress, and he will be convicted if they take the House, the Senate. However, it won't make any difference. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And when he is impeached and convicted, it will be because he actually committed those crimes.
And he could still attack Cuba. He could still bomb Iran. He could still,
the
send
Iran
arms
thing
to-
has to keep going because he hasn't fully buried the Epstein files enough. And he's done a pretty decent job of hiding from the Epstein files. And, there will be a war, there will be a calamity, there will be economic chaos or world chaos until such time as he doesn't give a crap about the Epstein files anymore. But between now and then, we're going to live in a world of chaos.
Well, he's setting it up for a military takeover, martial law.
He is. Yeah, he is. That's what he made it very clear. He told the generals that he was going to deploy them in the United States against his enemies, and that those enemies were Democrats. Yes. That's why ICE exists. That's why he's repositioned the Department of Defense as a Department of War, and he's redefined the enemy as all. Actually, the enemy is all humankind. It's not just those who opposed him. He hates everybody. So, there's a lot of atheists that post on X, and because I comment on some of their statements because they really are ignorant in what they typically say. And this one says Jesus never raised Lazarus from the dead. And I think there's a point down there where they start to say that, oh yeah, here it is, that the story of Lazarus in the Gospel of John is a religious claim, a myth even, not historically established fact. There is no independent contemporary evidence that Lazarus existed, that he died, or that he was brought back to life. So my comment is, well, why don't we just take that one step further? Apart from Paul and pals, there's no evidence that Jesus existed, died, or came back to life. Zero. None.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you focused on Lazarus when the real issue is Jesus? Well, it's a nice mummy, though.
That's a nice mummy. Well, he wasn't invented until, 52 CE?
Iesus Christi was first invented in 52 CE.
Yeah.
And it wasn't any creativity. He just modeled him after Dowd and ripped Dowd off. And that was the extent of it. Then he misquoted God to justify his false caricature.
Yeah. You can't reanimate
Yes, sir.
dead flesh.
All right, let's go. So what do we have here? If you cared about evidence, you'd be a Christian. So, please, show me some. I mean, I've written 5 volumes. They average about 625, 650 pages apiece. 5 volumes that show overwhelming evidence that Jesus never existed, that Paul lied, that the Christian New Testament is trash. And I haven't seen any evidence of any kind that a Jesus fellow lived. None. In fact, there are no eyewitness accounts. There are no contemporaneous accounts. There's no evidence presented in a secular account. Not with all of the evidence that proves the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and that it happened exactly in the details that it was presented. And overwhelming evidence, not only in Israel, but around the world, throughout the Middle East, in written testimony and archaeological evidence that everything, every detail was true. There isn't one iota of evidence that says that anything in the Christian New Testament is true. And matter of fact, all evidence says that it wasn't true. There were no Baptists, for example, at the time. No one was named Jesus. Nazareth didn't even exist as a town, so he couldn't have been Jesus of Nazareth. There was Christ means a drug, so there was no Mr. Christ. And every citation of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms is misquoted. No, there is nothing. The first Gospels, which is Paul's term, were written 40 years after the fact, and they weren't even written by eyewitnesses. And the next two were written 60 years after the fact by unknown artists. So no, you got nothing. Literally, you got nothing. You don't have anything that points to that anything that is said in the Christian New Testament is true. But the only credibility you have is that the myth is designed to counterfeit what was true, with Dowd being the Messiah who honored these things. That's all you got.
Well, I have a question. If you cared about evidence, why do you need faith and belief?
Yeah, of course. You wouldn't. And if you cared about evidence, why don't you show some? Seriously, show some. Instead of writing the sign, show something. Be the first person that has some evidence, because I've examined every 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century manuscript, read them beginning to end. I've translated them for you. I've presented them and compared them to what the current manuscripts say. I've compared every citation that purports to quote something from the Torah, prophets, and Psalms to what's actually in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms from the oldest manuscripts. And I can tell you that everything is wrong. I've traced the history of manuscript scribing and copying in the Christian New Testament, and I have proven that there are more discrepancies and errors than there are words. And it's obvious. And it's yes, I killed Jesus. And if you believe there's evidence for Christianity, you ought to go and read the books Twistianity, which killed Jesus, completely destroyed the myth. It would be helpful for you to do so. And then stop it with the stupid Steins.
Yeah. It's been kind of my experience when talking to some of these folks is that they throw up this screen, this force field shield that they have. And it's very difficult to penetrate that. The indoctrination is very complete.
No, you're never going to get through to them. Evidence and reason have no influence whatsoever on a religious individual. None. You can cite God himself from proven texts, and they'll have no influence over them. When God himself contradicts their religion and says he despises it, which Yahowah does routinely, calls Paul the plague of death, it has no effect on them. So evidence and reason are anathema to Christianity. They are allergic to it. They will do anything to preclude having to even deal with it. Yeah, you wouldn't be a Christian if you cared about evidence and reason. All right, so boy, we had a lot of posts on these two scumbags. If you watch one Charlie Kirk video today, watch this one. We're not going to watch this one. We may watch one, though. However, Charlie wanted what his legacy to be. He did not fear death. He wanted to be known as Mr. Twistian. Listen, promoting a false god and a demonic president for money does not make you a good man.
$50 million a year in revenue.
$50 million a year for promoting a false god and a satanic president who was a pedophile and a rapist. And it has the world at the doorstep of its destruction. and you want to believe that piece of shit is good, you have really got your head up your tuchus when that is somebody that you would honor, or his miserable wife, widow.
Well, it seems Christianity is a money-making business.
It is. Made a lot of
TV
money for a lot of
preachers.
people for a long time. And politics is the other. Politics and religion are the control mechanisms for humankind. And today you have numbskulls that are influencers that promote religion and politics. And he figured out how to bilk that for big bucks.
Yeah. And provides $50 million a year in revenue and provides no value whatsoever. Doesn't put one
Passing out
product on the market.
MAGA
Doesn't
hats.
provide one service.
Packing out MAGA hats to kids in college, and the president is a pedophile and a rapist and a mass murderer who's number one on the list of killing.
And proud of it.
And he's proud of what the president's proud of being demonic, and he was proud of promoting him to college kids. And that's your hero.
You know, way back in my early days when I was a fireman, we used to have to go do area checks. And these these traveling tent preachers would come around and set up their tents, and we have to go there and make sure the tent didn't catch on fire or whatever. So, and we get a close-hand view of how these people operate. And it was just a fleecing operation from the get-go. It's just amazing how outward they are about it. I know you got money in your pocket. God wants your money.
Yeah, they were. I had the opportunity in my life to, on several occasions, to be in the company of the most well-known preachers. And they were all money grubbers, every single one of them. They all had a stick to grub money, and that's what they did. And by the way, I've been in the presence of some of the world's leading politicians, and they were control freaks. There is no one who's good. They're horrible. And this guy was one of the worst among them. So here is the poor and the middle class pay taxes. The rich pay accountants, the very rich pay lawyers, and the ultra rich pay politicians. Now, the fact that the rich pay accountants is true. They have to, because you don't pay it, your accountant, then you can't file a tax return because it's become way too complicated. So the rich have to pay accountants. They're under GAAP accounting rules, and it's the accounting of make-believe. The very rich pay lawyers. Yeah, they have to have those too, because the tax system is so convoluted. And the ultra-rich pay politicians, some do. The tech oligarchs are doing it because, well, your politicians are money grubbers. It's prevalent. Now, do the poor and middle class pay taxes? Yeah, but let's be truthful here. The most productive 1% of Americans pay 25% of all taxes, and the least productive 50% of Americans pay 1%. So you are being a deceiver, James Tate.
I've paid my fair share of taxes and then some.
It's small business that pays a lot in taxes. And when they hit that $10 million in revenue, what does that mean? Now you have to apply for GAAP accounting.
Yes, you
And
do.
they all freak out when they see what that actually incurs.
It's one of the most destructive things in the world is general accepted accounting practices, GAAP accounting. Most people have no clue what it is. They've never been up against it. But the way that that assets are amortized, and it creates the illusion of profits for the purpose of the government to confiscate non-earnings. You can be losing money, and the government will still confiscate money from you because of the way that GAAP accounting rules work. It's a great travesty of the nation. That's another story for another day. We'll go. Okay, so here they are. It's gods don't kill people. People with gods kill people. That is true. And it has never been more true than it is with Islam. I mean, the first 200 years of Islam, 200 million people were killed by the religion. It's the most deadly onslaught of any religion in human history. But second on to Islam is Marxism. So the question is, who's the atheist god? Before you go and blame religion for everything, since Marxism over the last 100 years has been the most lethal ism by a long shot. In the last 100 years, Marxism has been far more lethal than has been Islam. Who are you going to blame for that? Maybe the problem is just people. Maybe God was right after all when he says, once they became many, they became purely evil.
Yeah, when you get paid for not working, that's a pretty easy thing to do. The mind think is amazing. You know, I've been around a lot of people. I've been in a lot of different classes of people, and the mind think there is, you know, how can we get over? A lot of times, it's not how much can I do, how much can I produce, but how much can I get?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, the most of the reason that civilizations and institutions kill lots of people is because most people envy what other people have, and they are living miserable lives. They're looking for someone to blame, and they therefore have a justification for taking what others have. That's the whole mindset of Marxism, you know, that we'll take what the wealthy have because they don't deserve it and we do. And so they just confiscate it. And when you do that kind of a scheme, like we look at the onset of Marxism, the two most prominent historical examples, that of Lenin to Stalin and then of Mao Zedong, 1 million people starved to death at the onset of Marxism. And so it is just the mindset. It's been the mindset of collectivized humans, even in empires, that will just steal what others have and will take it by force. That's why God got so disgusted at Nasama man outside of the garden and caused the flood. He just says, this is not working. There's no chance to work. We've got to reset. This is actually pretty funny, sad, really. It has one after another of the members of Trump's inner circle cabinet and executives correctly acknowledging the Trump scum, that he is an egomaniacal madman that'll be exceedingly destructive for the country. And then they take the job, lured into the the glow of Satan and the power, or the allure of power. But you can play a few of these. We'll cut it short because it just goes on and on and on. But it's pretty biting.
There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
It's typical Trump. All bluster, very little substance.
For you to think that you can pimp out our proud servicemen and women to the Prince of Saudi Arabia is disgraceful. And it once again shows that you are unfit to serve as our commander-in-chief.
Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy.
Well, I think the problem is, number one, he's a bully. And, no, I don't like bullies.
This is what happens when a leading presidential candidate goes around feeding into a narrative of anger and bitterness and frustration.
This is a guy who said that John McCain is not a war hero, yet he sought his own 5 military deferments.
There's nothing in our Constitution that gives you the power to go to war without the express consent of Congress.
Yeah, it goes on and on.
Politics.
And on. Politics, man.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely. Little Marco, Lion Ted. I mean, they're all best friends now, aren't they? You know, we're all in on the grift.
I have been a number of times in the Oval Office, and you know, you'd say you see pictures of it, and it's the seat of power of the world. And you think of the people that have sat there. And I had a very different response to it, I think, than most people did and have. And for me, the room looked really small. The view was crappy. The neighborhood didn't like it all.
Right.
And I said, I feel like it was an animal in a cage here. This is like being a goldfish in a bowl. And this is a really crappy bowl on top of all of that. I would no more want to live in this house than a man in the moon. And what a terrible office. I wouldn't trade any one of my 2 offices here or any office that ever built in studies and the previous homes for that one. And would never want that seat. And yet people who are wee little people that crave authority and it's a job that you can come into the job like Trump broke. Obama broke. Bill Clinton broke. George Bush broke. And you can leave with tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars and sometimes billions of dollars. So it's a money-making con job, that office.
And we all fall for it. You got these guys like Rubio. Rubio is a senator from Florida. I listened to Rubio. Rubio made sense at one time, it seemed to me. Now he doesn't make sense at all. He got suckered into the realm of the Rahab. And I don't know what's wrong with him or the rest of them. But politics does make strange bedfellows, and they do flip flop quite a bit. But it's just a corrupt business.
Yeah, it is. Yep, it is. It's a swamp. When George Washington sold what is now Washington, D.C. To the U.S. Congress, it was a swamp. And I'm quite convinced they've never drained that swamp.
Yeah, the only way to win is not to play. It's like thermonuclear war.
God made it very clear that if you were political, you're rejecting him. I find that he says what he means what he says. And so I learned a long time ago, and I've encouraged everybody that would listen, don't be political. You can condemn them, because God does. You can expose them, but don't join them, ever. And that was God's advice. He wants us to be apolitical and anti-religious. We are, I am, we will continue to be. You don't have to be, that's your call. But you just need to know that if you are political, then you're dealing with scum. And this is the worst ever. Worse than Hitler, worse than Stalin, worse than Mao. This is the single worst politician in the history of humankind.
I was, that's absolutely right. I was watching a little bit about the Ukraine war yesterday. In that meeting with Zelensky, Trump gave Ukraine the licensing agreements and to manufacture Patriot missile systems. And Rubio came out and said this was a calculated escalation. Okay, read that into however you want, but calculated. I mean, how could you calculate something like that? I mean, that's just political mumbo jumbo. They're goading Russia into doing something big.
Yeah, goading Russia. First of all, there isn't a single Patriot missile system that will ever be built in Ukraine. Don't have the wherewithal to build them, and so they could, if you gave them a 99% assembled Patriot missile system, could they complete the last 1% if you gave them the parts? Yeah, maybe.
With the tires on?
Yeah, the tires for the launch vehicle. Could they even operate it if you gave it to them completely? No, because the Patriot missile systems aren't operated by Ukrainians. They're operated by Americans. And by the way, they aren't working. They are not working. They are failing miserably. They're not even 10% effective. So there's a reason that Trump doesn't want to give them Patriot missiles, because we don't have any more Patriot missiles. We've gone through our supply of Patriot missiles between Israel and Israel not getting any more, and between the war that Trump keeps on antagonizing in Iran. So the U.S. doesn't have any Patriot missiles to sell to Iran. And there is no chance Iran's going to make any, but the promise sounds like, oh, wow, we're doing our part now. You step up and do your part. It's just nothing but a con job.
Yeah.
And they don't work on top of all of that.
Yeah, the idea that they're going to have coffee parties and have people getting around building Patriot missiles in their living rooms or whatever. It's just, it's nonsensical, completely nonsensical. If they for 1 second had a manufacturing facility anywhere in Ukraine, it would instantly become a target.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
we are told a lot of detail of what's going to happen in these next few years in terms of war. And the things we are told affect Israel, that there's going to be many millions of Iranians that march into Israel, and that they will be joined by the likes of the Turks and the Egyptians in this final jihad against Israel. And it's going to play out over a number of years between now and 2033. So we know that's going to happen. And we know that they're going to be individuals because they climb through windows and they rape and they pillage and they murder. They're going to be your typical jihadists. And there are going to be too many of them for Israel to do anything about, and Israel will be completely defenseless regarding them. And we know that Israel is going to have to forego a Fakistanian state and become indefensible because of that as well. We know of the timing that these events are going to happen. We know that it's Donald Trump that ultimately betrays them. And then something I said yesterday that I said, I'm going to speculate. I'm going to share something with you that I think is the only explanation for Donald Trump removing the sanctions that he imposed on Turkey, that the Congress and even Rubio said cannot be removed because they were imposed by Congress. And so Trump is removing sanctions that were imposed by Congress against Turkey, which he has no right to do. And then he is selling them F-35s, which he has no right to do, after Israel begged him not to do that. And what I said is there's only one logical explanation for this. It's only one. Why would you sell that kind of weaponry to a man who has constantly stated that he wants Israel annihilated and that he intends to do it? And the only answer is because you want him to do it. Yeah. That Trump doesn't want to be responsible for the annihilation of Israel, but he wants Israel annihilated. And he wants Israel annihilated for the same reason that he wants many things, which is that Israel, when he betrayed Israel in this last round with Iran, and he signed this surrender agreement that checkmated Israel. Israel, for the first time, recognized that he is a fraud. He is the great betrayer. And once they recognized that and didn't kiss his ass, then you had J.D. Vance saying to Israel, this is your only friend and you have no other friends in the world. And your only weapons supplier and all of that. And you better kiss his ass or else. Then Israel immediately pushed back and said, no, that's not true. It probably is true, but Israel rebelled against that. And then when he said Israel only exists because of Donald Trump, which is another lie, Israel pushed back and said, no, it's not true either. And Trump doesn't take that kind of stuff well. And so now, and he doesn't like the fact that people constantly say that he is run around by a nose ring by Netanyahu. And so he is, for many reasons, devoted to the destruction of Israel. And that's what the prophets made very clear. He is the great betrayer. And he's going to continue to promise Israel all manners of security for concessions from Israel. And ultimately, when it comes down to protecting Israel, he's going to deploy Turkey to destroy Israel. And so he's selling all of that weaponry and removing the sanctions on Turkey because Erdogan and he are demonic twins. And he's doing it explicitly so that Turkey can annihilate Israel. You heard it here. That's the truth.
Aren't the raptors flying birds of prey? They're coming from the west?
Yes. That's what it says. That's what's going to happen. Oh, this is a simple one. Then you're nothing. Goodbye. Moving on.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Then you're nothing.
We made it in on time on that one. We made it under the timer on that one.
Yeah, there it did. Hell is a place where people who want nothing to do with God finally get their wish. No, it is not. You ought not speak of things that you know nothing about, John. Not even close. Souls that want nothing to do with God dissipate into nothingness. No reward, no punishment, certainly no hell for them. You want nothing to do with God. He wants nothing to do with you. You're free to vanish, and that's all that's going to happen. Hell is for those souls who act as if they were gods. That's quite a difference from your statement, sir, John.
No one understands the three destinations, do they? No one.
First profound insight I came up with 25 years ago, and it's still amongst the most profound. Yep. If that's your God, you don't have a God. I mean, can you imagine a religion so sick that this would be their God? It's astonishing how morbid, gross, demented.
And then to eat a piece of it every year?
Yeah, people have to be to think that's their God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was simply amazed at the number of so-called passion descriptions there are in media, as far as how many movies have done this type of scene. We were looking for some B-roll for something a while back, and it just blew my mind how many. I mean, there's hundreds of them. Actors that try to portray this.
Christianity loves the tortured God on a stick. They just eat that up. A tortured God on a stick. Listen, now I know I've suffered crucifixion. Ain't no fun. I wasn't God. And I was next to the Son of God, who wasn't God either. And I was next to my wife, who wasn't God either. The device doesn't look like this one. There's nothing that goes above the top bar. The top bar just sits on a stake that stays in the ground, and there's no crown of thorns, and there's no reason for the Romans to have whipped the body to this level. They're going to do their flogging, but it's not nearly to that level. And if you just think that is your God, you're clueless. It just, and the thing that's beyond the macabre nature of pretending that's a God is that not even bothering to think that, there really is a God, and depicting him like that is really disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
pick them up and
I can tell you there'll be a lot of crosses, but all the crosses are going to be in hell. All of them.
Well, they used crosses on sticks during the Inquisition to hold the cross over the person they were burning at the stake. They had crosses on the shields of the Crusader warriors going down to fight that. The red and emerald cross on a white shield. The crosses are everywhere, and they always represent death.
They do. Yeah, Constantine. Before this sign, Conquer, who was Eusebius made up the whole story as a bunch of propaganda, but the propaganda was that it was this kind of a cross superimposed on the sun, who would have been his god, that'd have been Mithras, and the message was to conquer, to go kill. That's my God. Go kill him, baby. He's number one in killing. Trump, you can't be number one when the Christian God's number one in killing. Oh, a book filled with inconsistencies and contradictions and lies. Here it is. Holy Bible. No problem. Rip out the New Testament. Some books that don't belong, like Job and Jonah, Enoch and Ezekiel. Problem solved. Oh, and change the name. We got no holy and we got no Bible, but we have a Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Prove themselves accurate, amazingly preserved, consistent, beautiful story. But, you can be a fool there, whoever wrote this, Ernst. Oh, yeah, we get Ernst from time to time, don't we? Ernst, you'd be a fool because you don't really know what you're talking about. But anyway, I would agree that that if you're going to hold a book accountable for everything that's in it, you do have to remove books like Job and Jonah, Enoch and Ezekiel. They are trash. And the entire New Testament, every book. There's nothing left. All gone. There you go.
The choice is between a tome that is diseased or a Torah that's soothing and beneficial.
Yeah. Teaching from God. Guidance from God. Or do you want to believe Ernst and just said a book that he has no concept of what's inside of it? But, you wonder even if Ernst is a person or if Ernst is just a bot. And everybody's got their little agenda. And X is the place to promote agendas. Yeah, it says this world has forgotten about God, and I have a feeling he's about to remind us who he is. No, he's not. My job. You may not think I'm very good at my job, but God, confident that I'm doing the job reasonably well. But putting you in a position where you will no longer forget about God and introducing to you who he really is, that is my job. And his name is Yahowah. His beloved son is Dowd. He is returning on the 2nd of October, 6:22 p.m. in 2033. And the great day of Yahowah will occur 10 days prior to that time on Towrah, and we're now in the time of trouble. So I got a feeling that you're in for a whole world of hurt between now and then. But thank you for writing. Operation Heal America. Oh yeah, that's gonna. I can tell you that no part of my job is healing America.
Right. Not in the job description.
Thank God, because it can't be done. Yeah, that can't be done. So I'm glad that's not part of my job.
Thank you very much for playing us. And talk about
Christian passions. The Passion of the Christ was the worst of them. I mean, it was demonic to a T. And I think he has another one. He is a really miserable anti-Semite. But I can assure you, Mr. Mel Gibson, that God did not burn your home. God did not take it away from you. He did not give anything to you. He has no clue who you are. He has given you nothing. He has taken nothing from you. Although, because of what you have done with your life and your films, he will take your soul. Oh, hey, you got that part right. This really bothers me a great deal. These are obviously liberals that were opposed to Trump's ICE. And we're non-political. None of us are going to go out in the streets and protest in a political rally. We will oppose politics with our words, not with our feet. Now, the truth of the matter is neither of these two deserve to die. They were both murdered by Trump's personal army, ICE. They are the brown shirts of the Fourth Reich. And the fact that there has been no indictment, no trial, that no one has been held accountable for the murder of these two people says that America is a country that has fallen so far, it's almost impossible now to even remember what it once was.
A murder that was witnessed by millions of people. The evidence, all of the evidence is absolutely recorded. I mean, it's crazy.
We've all witnessed it. Everybody that has any interest in what was going on with the ICE brown shirts has witnessed it, and we've seen this scene from video cameras, each of their murders from all possible angles, and it was outright premeditated murder, and the perpetrators have not been held accountable. And you can't have a country if you aren't willing to hold people accountable when they commit murder. There's no chance that you can have a viable country. It's just over. I'm sorry they're dead. I would never have done what they did, but I can appreciate the fact that they did have the conviction to oppose what is a extraordinary evil in ICE and Donald Trump. But they did go about it the wrong way. That doesn't mean they deserve to die, and they deserve recompense. And this is part of God's overall plan, is to provide people with recompense. Those that pulled the trigger, those that put them in that place, need to be held accountable, and God's going to make certain that they are. So they will get closure for their deaths. It's just not going to happen by the corrupt nature of Minnesotans or of the U.S. Justice Department.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that the Justice Department is separate from the Judicial Department, from the executive branch. So it seems to me like there's a breakdown in that separation there somewhere.
There is. Well, the Department of Justice is an office that is under the executive branch. It's the Supreme Court that is independent of the executive branch, but the Justice Department does not report to a Department of Justice. I don't even think there is a Department of Justice in the U.S. Constitution, so there is no mention of it. There is a Supreme Court as an independent, one of the three checks and balances. There's the Congress, the Supreme Court, and the executive branch, and they all have checks and balances. Trump pays no attention to two of the three and acts like he's a dictator. But the Department of Justice, like the Department of War and the Central Bank, Federal Reserve, all of these things are all created outside the auspices of the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, the whole concept of a federal police force wasn't even envisioned, and it was something they wholly would have opposed. An FBI,
they were
in anything.
Completely opposed to a standing army. Completely opposed to a standing army. So the U.S. military is unconstitutional from their point of view. That's why the Second Amendment was written. And they were completely opposed to a central bank. So, America has become what the Founding Fathers hated. And Founding Fathers hated democracy. While they created a republic, they hated democracy. They knew that democracy had no chance of success. And they would have hated fiat money. The Constitution is opposed to fiat money because that also is an evil. So, there is no correlation between the nation as it is now and what was envisioned by the Founding Fathers. And the Founding Fathers weren't all that good of guys anyway. They were their own revolutionaries. They opposed a system that most people actually liked. This idea of taxation without representation. The British, for all the scum that they were for all the rest of their colonies, actually treated the Americas quite well. It was less than a 1% tax, and they actually provided a lot for that 1% tax. And so it's probably the only colony that the Brits had that was actually run reasonably fairly. And the revolutionists were in the vast minority, less than 1/3, and their rallying cry with taxation without representation, as a result of their revolution, taxes on Americans skyrocketed. They went up almost 20 to 30 times. So they had exactly the opposite effect. A very unpopular revolution that had the opposite effect of what they claimed they were trying to achieve.
Except some dudes didn't owe money anymore. So, that worked out well for them, right?
Yeah, the people, those in Boston, and the Klan in Boston had bootlegging operations to get around the British system, and so it was a business deal for them to dump the British tea in the harbor, so that their bootleg tea was all that was available. They were con men. Well. Is Jesus your Lord? No, there is no Christ. There was no Jesus. And I managed to kill both with the truth. I would invite you to go to yada.com, scroll down to the 5 volumes of Twistianity. Again, you don't even have to be able to read. I'll read them to you. You don't even have to turn the pages. I'll turn the pages for you. You don't have to keep track where you are. I'll keep track of where you are in the books. Just go, listen. There was no Christ. There was no Jesus. And I absolutely, unequivocally killed them with the truth. And it's a shame that someone hadn't done it previously. Now, what you could do is you could send your God man after me. Why don't you go pray and sick him on me? See how that works for you. Here I am.
Absolutely.
I'm in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Come, send him on me. You can come and you might even accompany him. And I can also assure you that there's no correlation between the Ark of the Covenant, which you're trying to show there with the wings of the cherubim, and the piece of scum that you're promoting, who's nothing but a crude counterfeit.
Oh, the entire image screams Tolkien and Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson. I mean, cinema. There is, it doesn't even fit their Jesus motif. You know?
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting is that what color is the throne?
It's black.
Black. When Yahowah, I wrote it, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But when Yahowah talked about the throne of Dowd returning, what's it going to look like?
As bright as the sun, El Yon.
Mm-hmm. So, do they have it correct?
No.
No.
They're asking for an amen raw.
No. And by the way, the Aaron of the Bereth, is it in the throne room?
No.
Trick question. Trick question.
The most set apart?
The mayor, the mercy seat of the Aaron Bereth.
Below the Golgotha escarpment.
It is Dowd's throne.
Right.
Yes, it is in the throne room because it's Dowd's throne. The Aaron Bereth is the throne. That is why it's returning as brilliant as the sun. They are one and the same. There'll be no separation between Dowd and it. It is the throne.
Wow.
Told you it was a trick question.
I was going to say, I was trying to figure out what, because you use the term throne room, and I'm like, there is no throne.
Well, no, absolutely.
Room.
Oh, yeah, God is making a throne room for his son. Absolutely. And his throne will be the Aaron Bereth.
Right, but we would refer to it as the Kodesh Kodesh. It is the third.
He's not saying that when he creates a house of light, that's where the throne is going to be. I can tell you that's where the Aaron Bereth was in the most set apart area of the temple or the house for Yahweh's name, and the tent of the restoring witness while in the wilderness. And that's where it was. And when Elia and I return to speak on top of the Temple Mount, we'll have the tent of the restoring witness, and the Aaron Bereth is going to be retrieved, and it will be set in this proper place in the tent of the restoring witness on the Temple Mount. And when Dowd returns, that is his throne. Now, Dowd's not going to be sitting around a lot, so it's it's going to be visible and available for everybody to examine and enjoy. But there's no reason to have it veiled anymore. There's no reason to set it apart anymore, because everybody that has access to it is already set apart unto it. And it will have served its function. Now it's like that fire that God's going to ignite under the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah and the water feature that's going to be around it. That fire is going to burn forever, and it's an eternal flame, and the water features are going to be manifest forever. This is going to glow as brilliant as the sun forever. And Dowd will acknowledge it as his seat of power, his authority. It is the very thing that he established on behalf of the covenant, and so he's going to acknowledge it as that. But there is no separate throne. That is it. That's why it was designed as it is.
Wow.
Yeah, Shittacus Maximus. Things I've effed up. Yeah, and
there is no FCC. There is no FCC, so we can say fucked up. But
yeah, I know, but I'm not an F-bomb guy. I will occasionally. There are things which will really piss me off. Where I will
save it up. Right.
Yeah, save it up for when it's. So I really don't like to use it as a verb, unless it's the only verb that applies. But the fact of the matter is, if you were to come up with a list of things that Trump has F-bombed, it wouldn't be 8. It wouldn't even be 800. 8,000 might be a good over and under number. You know, you're familiar with betting odds. What's the over and under on score or points or something?
Right.
I think 8,000 would be pretty close to the over and under on things that he has just massively screwed up.
I thought this was going to be a top 10 list. Surely we can come up with a top 10.
Oh yeah, well, how about the petrodollar? The relationship with all American allies, the credibility of the presidency of the United States, the very reputation of this nation. But they have some of that, American values and ethics, U.S. economy. The Iran war, of course, was a utter and unmitigated disaster. Venezuela kidnapping a president and leaving the country so vulnerable as he did, stealing their money. The deals he made with Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia, the deal that he's cut funding his cryptocurrency deal, which made him billions of dollars and wipe out hundreds of millions of dollars of American investment. The list just goes on and on and on. Balance of world power completely destroyed the United States standing. So
maybe this was just thinks he's effed up in the last 8 minutes.
Okay. You could ask Israel to that, betraying Israel, giving F-35s to Turkey, pretending that Turkey is somebody worthwhile, claiming that he's deserving of a peace prize, saying that he's numero one on the list of killers. That's, you got a lot of stuff that fit on this list.
And he's just getting started.
Just getting started. Yep, that's the most amazing thing.
A thought popped in my head the other day. I was thinking about something kind of unrelated, but it came in that Trump sees himself as the emperor of the world.
He does. He does. He actually tells colleagues that he thinks he is more important and more powerful than Alexander the Great, who thought he was a god, than Julius Caesar, who was an egomaniacal madman. And he goes on to talk about world leaders that he views himself as superior to and more powerful than. He sees himself as more a better leader than Napoleon. Now, of course, Napoleon ended his life also in shame, and I recall Et tu Brutus with Julius Caesar when he took his legions over the Rubicon. So his role models didn't exactly do very well in the end, so he may need new role models. But I think his favorite role model really is Hitler. But that didn't end very well either. Yes. Shittacus Maximus has some flaws in his getting along. Jesus is my superhero, and he says that the greatest man who ever lived, the greatest things ever done, period. Jesus is the Son of God. I've spoken to God. I'm quite well. And I can tell you that Jesus is not his son. Statement of fact. Jesus is not his son. His firstborn sons is named Beloved. And he acknowledges multiple times that Dowd is his firstborn son. And he routinely says, Dowd is my son and I am his father. And he says that Dowd is his chosen one. And he says multiple times that Dowd is the Messiah and that Dowd is the former and returning king. And it was Dowd who was nailed to a death stake by the Romans. Yep. And Jesus never existed. Jesus is no more of a myth, though, than is Superman.
Hmm?
You know, you could have the Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, Peter Pan, Santa Claus, and Jesus. And, you could have a parade of fairy tales. I mean, you might as well put in, the Marvel comic characters, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of those all have demonic roots, if you look at them.
They do. Yeah, I don't think Superman did. Superman was written by some Jews to come up with a hero that would fight for Jews as the victims of anti-Semitism and all forms of abuse, and so they created Superman as the defender of Jews and anti-Semitism. Not defend anti-Semitism, but diffuse Jews against discrimination and anti-Semitism. And of course, now this shows that Superman is defending the lie of Jesus, which is the cause of anti-Semitism. The lie of Jesus is based on the idea that Jews killed the Christian God, and that the Christian God got all upset that the Jews killed him and decided to renege on all the promises that he had ever made to the Jews, and to transfer all of them to the covetous Goyim, who wanted all those promises delivered to them. Of course, there's not a shred of evidence that occurred. And if that did occur, then the Christian God would be completely untrustworthy.
And Superman was created by
Jews.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. These are the girls of Epstein and Trump, and there are hundreds of them, and many of them were children, 14, 15 years old when they were raped by Donald Trump, and some of them were even killed. But this notion that you're going to get closure, that they're going to get closures, it's just not going to happen. Trump will continue to spew out all manner of nonsense. He's going to overshadow this with chaos and with war, with economic calamity. And he's going to be so vicious in attacking those who want closure, want justice for these girls. But it's beyond Trump here. The U.S. government, the CIA, the FBI, is protecting itself too, because they were complicit. And it's not just that. MBS of Saudi Arabia was complicit. You've got the tech oligarchs that were complicit. And then you have the media moguls who were complicit. And so the amount of pushback against this happening is overwhelming because of the power and the influence of those who were the actual perpetrators. So I'm here to tell you it's just not going to happen. No one has gone to jail. No one's been prosecuted for one of the great crimes ever committed. And you need to ask why that is the case, and why the President of the United States was so complicit in all of this, that his name appears more than anyone else in those files, and that he was the number one enabler and the closest friend of Epstein. And yet he is sitting in the Oval Office of the United States. That speaks very poorly of MAGA, Republicans, and the country as a whole. And when Iran fires back at the United States for this perpetual war, they always refer to Trump as Epstein. They know. The world knows. The Iran war was to cover this up.
I might be naive in my thinking, but it's unfathomable to me that someone would participate in something like this. Someone would come up with this scheme to do, and then profit off of it, and then hide it. It just seems so horrible that it's just not fathomable for it to happen. And yet it did.
No. It's not true at all. Islam is the second most popular religion in the world. It was based on this exact crime. Not only was Muhammad a pedophile, but he promoted Islam by telling the jihadists, the criminals that joined his gang, that they could rape little girls too, and they could enslave women, and they did. And the entirety of the Islamic religion is based upon Muhammad being a pedophile and a rapist, and promising the men who fought for him that they could treat women as property. So if you've got the second most popular religion in the world that is based upon this scheme, it is not rare, is it, Roger?
No, I had not considered the Islamic side of it. Yeah, I was speaking only of the Epstein side.
If you consider Coming Home Volume 1, you eviscerate the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Pope after pope, after leader after leader, doing these depraved things.
Yeah.
This is not new.
Yeah. If you look at in Coming Home 1, he's right. I go through the history of the popes and how they turned the Vatican into a brothel, and how the difference is that rather than being little girls, it's little boys. But the Roman Catholic Church is largely based upon sexually abusing children. So that's the most popular religion in the world. So the two most popular religions in the world are based upon this theme.
Nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, nothing new under the sun.
Humanity sucks.
Yeah, you look at someone like Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan conquered more of the world than anyone else. And he had tens of thousands of sex slaves. And most of them were young children.
Yeah, it's just horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah. So it's very, very prevalent. You look at Hadrian, the Roman general who was most responsible for creating the myth of Palestine and for the diaspora. And he brought with him and left with a sex toy. He had a young adolescent boy that was his sex toy. And he and his sex toy then left Jerusalem after their carnage, and they went to the Dionysian Easter celebrations. And he was a lead officiator with his sex toy who died, and he lamented tremendously of his boy that died. But it's very common. Look at Paul. Paul had one love in his life. It was Timothy. It's exceedingly common. Look at what I think is one of the worst stories in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. The namesake for Jew, Yahud. He is known to have had solicited sex with a prostitute who turned out to be his daughter-in-law, making it incest. He impregnates her. He demeans her for adultery, and she has to prove that you're the father. I mean, look at Abraham. Twice he pimped out Sarah for sheep. Look at the story of Lot, his nephew. He had sex with his two daughters. Look at the worst story, I think, in the book of Shaphat. It's the story that leads to the book of Ruth, where the Amma was gang raped to death, leading to a civil war in Israel. No, this is standard operating procedure for man. That's why God said, "You're disgusting." When God describes Nephilim, the fallen man, religious man outside of the garden, he began the story by saying, what does he say about them? So the men took for themselves whatever women they wanted. They took for themselves whatever women they wanted. Same story, isn't it? So God begins the story of saying why he wanted the flood and to reboot the system is because he said that they took whatever women they wanted. Now, the story is as old as time. And even God's beloved son, he had a very tough time with women. He took another man's wife. He had the man killed. It destroyed the relationship for 14 years between Dowd and Yahowah. So, no, it's common. You know, I'm just sorry. I wish it were not true, but it is the story of humankind.
It's an ugly story.
It is an ugly story. Civilized man, collective man, is a really ugly story, and that's the reason why the Na'ar that is associated with the Katan that orchestrates all of the events and then participates in them pursuant to the fulfillment of Pesach, Matsah, and Makodim, is presented doing this, pushing them away. Has to push this away. That's why God has to clean house before he can establish the earth in the conditions of Eden. He must clean house. He has to push all of this away. You can't ever let it happen again. And that is when we enter that time where we are the teachers and the guides for this mortal remnant. If anyone even hints to go down this path, we will eliminate them immediately. So we are entering a time that this will never happen again. But we're leaving a time where it has been exceedingly prevalent. Humans are not good. We're ruthless. We're disgusting. There are very, very few. The reason that God keeps on repeating that the same souls that he found that he can trust is they're just so damn few. I think that right now, there are more souls today that God knows, loves, and trusts than at any time in all of history.
Well, that doesn't say much for the state of man, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm sorry, but it really doesn't. There just aren't many good men out there. They're few and far between. And you just see how despicable they can be when you've got MAGA as Christians supporting a man as vile as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then him doing deals with the likes of Erdogan, and then to have Vance and Rubio knowing that they're jumping in bed with the devil and do so. And then you have the generals where he says, John, I'm going to have you fight wars inside of America against my enemies. And you have less than 1% of them resign. 800. And it was fewer than 8 that resigned. No character.
Nope.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left to save. You have now a generation where, in Gen Z, women want nothing to do with men, and men want nothing to do with women. So we've fallen a long, long way.
Yes.
It just shows we're going along to get along, get you right to the bottom, because it is just one failing after another, I mean,
our advice is don't be political. Don't be religious. Oppose religion, oppose politics, oppose conspiracy. And then once you've walked away from all of those things, go to yahowah.com. All the books are free. We're not trying to sell you anything. As I say, you don't even have to read. Just go listen to them. It's a marvelous thing that exists there. Rich has walked away for a moment, so let's go to one more slide and he'll come back and get to close. Otherwise, Kevin, I think you have the magic button that will bring us to a close. Thank you, Roger, for being here. If we don't teach our children to follow Christ, the world will teach them not to. What did God say about religion in the second statement that he etched in stone?
They will curse their children
Corrupt.
to the third and fourth generation. Corrupt their children to the third and fourth generation.
The entire second statement that was etched on the first of the two tablets is a plea from Yahowah not to be religious. Don't associate with the religious. Don't speak for religious gods. Don't believe anything they have to say. Don't have religious paraphernalia around you. No idols, no artwork that's it's religious. Don't do that. And he said that because so many are doing that, that fathers corrupt their sons to the third and fourth generation. And what they corrupt them with is religion. And Christianity is the most hated by God. I mean, it's a race. Is it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam that are the most hated? And we have to realize that rabbis created Islam and Christianity. So if you were going to get right to the core of it, it would be Judaism that's the most repulsive to God. But the fact is that there really isn't much difference between them. And Christianity is the one that robbed his beloved son of everything that he had achieved. It's one thing to have endured crucifixion and to taken everyone's guilt into Sheol. It's another thing to be spit upon for having done so, and to have someone else steal your identity.
Well, doesn't y'all also tell us in that statement that there'll only be thousands who will come to know him?
Yeah, it says there'll be thousands that will benefit from his mercy by being observant of the terms and conditions of the covenant. And thousands amongst billions is 1 in a million. The numbers are not going to be that encouraging.
Yeah.
So that is all true. And the third statement is the most poignant, where it says that negating the value of Yahweh's name is unforgivable. And yet Yahweh's name does not exist in Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, which means those religions are unforgivable. They are therefore condemnable. And there's no way out of that problem. You cannot resolve that problem. Those religions erased Yahweh's name, and therefore they are not only condemnable, they are unforgivable.
They took those two tablets and corrupted them for their own use.
Yes.
There will be some recompense for that, I expect.
There sure will be. I'm looking forward to rewriting Written in Stone. I think that'll make a nice further addition to our library. And I just now have to figure out how I'm going to finish my edits of Coming Home 4 so that we can publish it now that I have come across a life-defining verification. What do I do with it? And how do we move on from this point? And do I just work through it, get these 3 books published, and then start a Coming Home 7 and lay it all out in Coming Home 7? Or, what do you do? And we can talk about it on these kind of programs. That's the nice thing. We can go from discovery to exploration of what it means in a matter of hours in a program like this, which is not possible in the books. So, but if without the books, we wouldn't have made the discovery.
Right.
So they're still together in this regard.
It's
all right, we'll
process.
do one more because I don't want to end on this particular picture. So let's just do one more and we'll call it a day. The claim is, if Trump were a Democrat, would you still despise him? Yeah, Satan is Satan, no matter the suit or tie. Mm-hmm. Yes. The answer is absolutely yes. We do not condemn Trump because we're liberals. We're not. We don't condemn Trump because we're Democrats, because we're not. I'm too conservative in my values and particularly economics to be a Republican, way too conservative to be a Republican. And so I'm not coming at Trump from the left. I'm coming against him by being right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean right politically.
The doc.
It's the doc. All right. Well, thank you, Roger. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. And thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the new introduction. I have actually no issue now that I think about it with Joe with his website with yada.com, although I'd like to see a little different graphic behind it because it is where we're directing people and it needs to be part of the introduction of this program. And I love all the stuff that leads to it. And when I've never been a fan of long intros, I think the intro could handle another 3 seconds. And unless there's some reason why you can't add one more bit, Leah has some really lovely images of the two of us together. And that is what this story is right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is the story of the two of us together. And so it might as well be presented that way. I think we just have one closing scene and we use everything that she already has. We just add one scene to it and we'll be right with the introduction. Now, my wife does not like me talking about her creative work publicly. So please do not share this concluding comment with her. I'll go and talk with her privately about it, not just spoofing here.
Gotcha.
Right.
Kind of, maybe.
Kind of.
Yeah, sort of, a little bit. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be back later this afternoon with a episode of Luminaries. I don't know if we'll have a new introduction for that or not, but hopefully we will. We'll see you later. Good day.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yow on our next podcast.